What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey YouTube channel. This is episode 23 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Michkov, and I'm joined as always by Jack Smith. If you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Hit the alert so you guys never miss a show. You can also help us on our quest to 1,000 subscribers. I think we're currently at 797, so about the same as last week. We were a -3 at one point and then pumped back up to 797. So if we can get over that 800 hump, that would be great. For all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We saw a big uptick in Spotify subs, so appreciate you guys who are listening to the podcasts out there. It's golf season coming up. Get your podcasts ready. Get us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, so you're first in line when our newest episodes drop.
Is that a thing, Jim?
Listening to podcasts when you golf? I don't do it, but it should be. I'm a mute when I golf. I'm a big Morgan Wallen guy, Morgan Wallen, whatever his name is. That's what I. But for the hockey fanatics out there, turn us on. Maybe we'll help your game out a little bit or something. We're relaxing. Maybe this episode though, maybe not so much. Hey, Jack. So Flyers are on a 3-game win streak.
Heater.
2 of those wins have come against the rival Pittsburgh Penguins, and it's a little funny where the Flyers and Penguins are sort of neck and neck in the standings, and we want the Flyers. I think we want them to sort of bottom out, or at least I do. And the Penguins finally suck, and we're beating them, but damn it, we're passing them in the standings now.
Can't win no matter what happens. It's just one of those things you just gotta take it.
It is what it is. So, the Flyers had a couple home games. They head to Pittsburgh tomorrow night, and I believe they're up in Winnipeg on Saturday. I have to double check that. We'll get the schedule out at some point. So a nice little road trip. And speaking of road trips, Jack, we're sponsored by a road trip company.
Speaking of road trips, Flyers fans, we've got something special for you today. Looking to take your game day experience to the next level? Then look no further than Fans of Philly. With over 14 years of experience, they're the go-to teams putting together an unforgettable travel packages for the die-hard Philly sports fan. Why Fans of Philly, you ask? Let's break it down. These guys have spent years building the best relationships with the bars, the hotels, the teams, transportation, you name it. Every trip they plan gets better and better, and trust me, they'll make your experience top-notch. Whether it's scouting out the perfect hotel or finding the hottest nightlife or securing the best seats in the arena, Fans of Philly have it all figured out. They know how to make your next trip an absolute blast. So head on over to fansofphilly.com. That's fansofphilly.com and book your next Flyers road trip today.
Yeah, Flyers road trips. Spring's around the corner. The Phillies are starting up. All you Phillies fans out there, head over to Fans of Philly. A lot of good stuff they do over there. Tailgates, you name it. We might have to hit up a few of those, Jack, once spring comes around.
Absolutely.
So, but for now, springtime also means March, and it also means trade deadline. And we're going to talk a lot about the trade deadline tonight. It's, I think with the 2-week break, Jack, with the 4 nations, it kind of like all of a sudden the trade deadline's next week. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't really the same buildup that we've had the last couple of years because we had that little break. We took a week off. We were watching 4 nations. All of a sudden we're jumping back into things, and it's like, holy shit, the trade deadline's a week from Friday. And of course, we've already seen guys move out like Farabee and Frost. And look, I know things were a little weird. Flyers had a lot of injuries. They were missing 2 players from the roster from the trade, in Kuzmenko and Pelletier, 2 guys I would like to talk about at some point in the show. But they haven't really missed a beat without those 2 guys. They've scored 6 goals in back-to-back games. Once against the Edmonton Oilers, who looked a little flat, and then they've beaten the Penguins 2 out of 3 times, 2 games in a row since that trade. And we'll see if they can make it 3 in a row tomorrow night. But we should have seen this coming with the Flyers. They make this trade, and we were expecting them to sort of bottom out a little bit. And here they are winning 3 in a row, Jack.
Well, they didn't get the initial addition, they lost 2 guys. They got the subtraction, but it took so long for Peltier and Kuzmenko to even play with this team. Sure enough, Kuzmenko's first game, that's the winning streak. But let's not forget the most important thing, Jim. Not just the trade, not just all that. The rest, the break. What have we been saying all year? They're young players, particularly Michkov. They're getting used to the grind, the NHL grind. They just had a nice break, and they've come out firing. Like, certain people got to feel pretty stupid at this point. It's clearly what the issue was this year with these younger players, particularly Michkov. And I wouldn't surprise me within a week and a half, and he's back to like not doing things maybe he shouldn't be. And he's not, it doesn't have as much jump in his step, because you can tell early in a game if Michkov has it or not. I was at that Washington game where he scored 2 goals. You knew off the jump that he was going to do something. He was buzzing. So that fires back with everybody. Look at our third line and what they just did. They had cooled off completely altogether. And I believe Brink had 4 points, a goal and 3 assists. Noah Cates with 2 goals. Forrester getting on the score sheet. Like, and the other thing, this team, Erson's been pretty good. When this team gets good goaltending, they're pretty decent. And this is proving it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that with Urson. And, we don't really talk about it enough. But the Carter Hart thing, the Flyers have been bad or not great since all of that went down. They were getting at least above average to very good goaltending. And I know he was catching some some flack while he was here, about letting in some weird goals. But, I'm not sure I don't want to say we didn't appreciate Carter Hart while he was here, but I think, we've seen, I don't want to say how bad the Flyers goaltending has been, but, we had a pretty decent stop. We had a pretty good guy and a pretty good goalie. I don't want to say pretty good guy because we don't know if he's a good guy yet.
Well, be careful. You're done.
Verdict's still out there, I guess, right? But, things kind of took a turn for the worse since that happened. And you need good goaltending, as you mentioned, Jack, with Sam Ersson kind of stepping up of late, had a nice little Four Nations tournament. John Tortorella mentioned him. Hopefully it's big. It's good for his confidence, and maybe he finishes strong. Maybe he wants to make up for last year and finish out strong in 2025.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, Jim, if I could real quick with Carter Hart last year. It's one of the things, and I think it's where like people just, for their argument's sake, the people who really put everything on Torts, I think they were fooled by last year and how well the team did. And what we're saying right now is a lot of that is this team is pretty decent, but their goaltending last year was great in the early goings. People were very high on Ersson, and it wasn't until he took over every single game for the last 3.5 months that he's like his game take a nosedive because he was exhausted. But when they had Hart and Ersson playing, they were really playing well, and that just gets forgotten. And it's like, no, Torts benched Coots, and it's like, no, when you actually watch this team play and see how they play and what they do, when they get the goaltending, they can beat anybody. I'm not saying they're winning the cup, but like they can play with anybody. We've seen them beat very good teams all the time. They had Florida's number last year, and they won the cup. Though when this team gets the goaltending, they can beat anybody. They are a good freaking team when they want to be, but they don't have the goaltending, and that demoralizes a team, sets you back ways. It wasn't just Ersson falling off. It was now you bring in the whole Kolosov situation and the Fedotov situation. Ersson actually, I don't think it was that bad, but he got hurt, and we were worried about what was going on there. And it's one of the things that we had last year, and when it was taken away, it looked a lot like how things looked this year when the team was bad. And it's not talked about enough. It's the anger is deflected elsewhere, and it's a pretty glaring issue. And then when you see the team get solid goaltending, because there was solid goaltending in that 6-1 win early on. That game maybe goes a different direction if he doesn't make some key saves early on. And he's been doing that since really he came back from injury, and it's shown in the team's record.
Yeah, 100%. So you mentioned some rest earlier too, and the same thing you just mentioned with the goalies and Torts. I think people who actually watch Michkov could tell you that regardless of his time on the ice, because there's another thing I want to mention with this as well. if you're Torts, you're what's the expression? You're dead if you do, or if you don't.
Damned.
You're damned if you do, and damned if you don't. So Michkov was out of gas for at least a month before the break. At least a month before the break. You could clearly see it. Like, we know what Michkov looks like when he's on top of his game, right? And he's looked like he has the last 2 nights. And so they'll, excuse me, at being at these games and kind of zeroing in on Michkov, there are plays along the wall or the puck will be within a couple strides, and he wasn't making the same plays he was making at the beginning of the year. So you could see, this guy's he's got to be dead physically because he's just not getting there, And, after seeing him the last couple nights, it's kind of like, wow, maybe a couple of weeks off really rejuvenated this guy. He goes over to United Arab, whatever the hell it's called over there, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, whatever the hell it is, goes on vacation, comes back, gets a little sun, and he's back to himself. Who knew? I also want to commend, like, the 2-week break was pretty huge for a guy like Sean Couturier, who, missed an entire season a couple years ago, had a rough finish last year. He probably could have used that 2-week break last year. Looks great his first 2 games back. And maybe the Flyers have figured out a line here, another line to go with that third line that you mentioned earlier. Couturier, Michkov, Tippett. Maybe that's a thing. And it felt like for a little while there, the same people, Jack, that are bitching about Tortorella, screwing up the lineup. As soon as you remove Morgan Frost from the equation, now it's like these guys, like Tippett and Michkov, all of a sudden can play together with Sean Couturier. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's just that guy that is the problem. And it's not to say that Morgan Frost is not a good player. Sometimes a guy just doesn't fit,
I have to agree. I wasn't thinking that, but yeah, you laid it out. It is kind of funny. Let's see some more games first. But if that's the case, that's kind of hilarious. Yeah.
Well, you look at like past partners for Couturier and like a Claude Giroux, and not to say either of these players are Claude Giroux, but I think it's fair to say Michkov and Tippett are both, offensively skilled players, and Couturier maybe relies a little bit more on defense, but he benefits playing with those guys. And I think those guys benefit playing with Couturier. Now, if you put a Morgan Frost on a line with Tippett and Michkov, to me, that's saying, hey, we're going balls to the wall offense, and there ain't going to be much defense being played, And I don't think that works all the time. So, it's just something that I noticed. It's like, hey, maybe what Torts has been saying all along here, we're trying to figure things out. All of a sudden they have a third line, or even I don't even know if we want to call him a third line anymore. So I was talking to somebody in the press box the other night. I don't know if the Flyers have a first, second, or third line. It's kind of like
they really don't. It's just how we envision things,
right? Yeah, I mean, so like you look up, for example, this just happens to be right next to me. Like you look at a lineup card, and it's like, I don't know who the first line is on this. It says Noah Cates, Tyson Forster, Bobby Brink is the first line, but it's like that they're not. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, people get so upset about Torts in the lineup. I'm like, there is no top. He's just playing players. Like, right. The time on ice is going to be skewed. He's going to make adjustments. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, unless he's clearly puts like Michkov on the fourth line or something like that. Unless something like that is done, don't even worry about it. Like, it's not played like that anymore. It's not NHL. And I know we want things to work that way, but it's just not the way they do it. They change so consistently. It's not even worth it.
Yeah, and so it's, I guess my point is, like, if the first line is whoever the other team thinks is your first line with the Flyers, like, it depends on who they put out against who. And
like, when I envision our team going for it, a third line like Cates, Forrester, and Brink is like what championships teams have, that caliber of third line.
Sure.
So that's why we envision them as a third line. They have the defensive style there. We all think Brink's a bottom 6 player. Cates most likely is too. Forrester's the only guy I'm like, I really hope he's more of a top 6 guy. But if you got a guy like that on your third line, you're doing things right. So that's why we call them a third line. Well, for now, they might as well be the first line, especially with TK not scoring, at least scoring. He's still getting assists, but scoring is consistently. But
I just thought it was interesting because I was having this conversation, and I'm like, You know what? Like they are. I still think of them as the third line, but like on the lineup card, they're listed as the top line. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just thought it's
it
interesting.
literally might be who they're starting and then the rest, because they he'll throw the random line out there to start the game. I was all excited. Jason, my son's first game, and I was like, all right, let's go Michkov. And he puts the third line out there, and this is early in the season. It's like, oh, I guess we're not going to hear the big pop for Michkov, but whatever. It is what it is.
No, and I think it's a good thing, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. For where we're at right now, yeah, absolutely. They should be experimenting and have that line do some stuff for you, so you can try some other things elsewhere. And that this is the season to do that. The only other thing I wanted to add, and it's because Don puts this here. When I had my one-on-one in the Great Torts debate, this is exactly something I brought up. It was said by the coach, the GM, and the player. Michkov admitted that he had tired legs. He just didn't have his legs. He was exhausted. And we talk about the Four Nations. The break was great, obviously, but it also consolidated the schedule. So not only is Michkov getting used to a 82-game season, it's a consolidated. He played a lot of games in a short time leading up to Four Nations as well. So for whatever, getting used to the season was just that much more difficult because of the condensed schedule to fit the Four Nations. So it's just another reason why I think it's just natural growing pains. And on top of that, he's right back in the Calder race. I say growing pains and Calder race in the same sentence. I don't understand why people are worried about this. Like, I think things are going pretty much exactly how they should be. And the deadline will be a indicator as well. But I certainly can't complain. And this little streak they're on has certainly proved everything we've been saying. Not a banner day for the Torts haters. Just saying.
Let me ask you a question, Jack. So I was looking at the Calder race the other day, and Lane Hudson from Montreal having an outstanding rookie season as a defenseman, obviously. 43 points, leads all rookies in points. So that's a big deal. But he's averaging, I think, 21, 22 minutes a night.
Isn't he like a minus 17?
He may be. I wouldn't hold that against him as a rookie D, though. Probably playing.
He is a defenseman, though. He is a defenseman, though.
All right, sure.
Forward, different story.
Sure. So Macklin Celebrini, second with 42 points. I think he's averaging 19 or 20 minutes a night, something like that. Then you get to Michkov with 41 points, averaging 16 minutes a night. I know we're a little biased because he's a Philadelphia Flyer, but if you're looking at, who wins the Calder Trophy, where would you have these three players ranked right now, considering ice time, considering position, and things like that?
I'd probably go Celebrini, Wolf, and then Hudson.
Oh, you have Wolf in your top three.
Yeah, I think he's a reason why Calgary's not continuing to tear it down. Like, okay. It's how do you judge a goalie though? It's kind of tough. I just think that he's been pretty damn good. He came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that can change. I just think that's today. Like today, that's how I would rank it.
Okay.
And then Michkov at 4. And I think, he just needs to catch up in points. But
you don't factor in that he's playing like 5 minutes less.
I just said his ice time's the least. It's like, I do, but like realistically, the voters, are they going to factor that into to jump somebody else who's leading in points or tied for points? I don't think so.
I think
he might.
Hudson gets it just because he's in Montreal. He's defenseman.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
I kind of put Celebrini where I did too for the same thing. Number 1 overall pick, San Jose. Center the whole night. He was hurt. Came back.
That's true.
So things like that.
Yeah, it's another conversation I was having because if you're averaging 5-6 minutes less a night, that's like 10, 12 shifts, maybe something like that. Let's say 8 to 12 shifts. That 8 to 12 shifts less a game you're averaging than some of these other guys. So I thought it was an interesting question there. Boost Wholesale with some good comments tonight. Pretty cool story. Smallest goalie in the league. Ridiculous resume. Yeah, highly touted prospect. Dave also has Wolf is 1. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's kind of roll down here. We got some good comments tonight. A lot of people in the comments. I haven't seen
for the trade deadline rumors. They named our topics right in a row. It was like
they did, yeah.
I was like, I kept putting it on the screen. It was like, damn, just boom, boom, boom.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Not that it was a secret or anything.
Go ahead, pick one out. I gotta take a quick bathroom break here. So go ahead.
All right. You know what I'll do? I'll tell the Coots thing real quick. You go.
Okay.
Potty.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys caught it, but they had Coots mic'd up talking to Michkov. And I just like how it's a great line. He said, he was talking about the face off, and he goes, I never lose cleanly. So come and get it, basically, is what he was saying. I may lose it, but I'm not going to lose cleanly. It's like, I like that. And then I liked him trying to explain, because he clearly didn't understand everything he was saying. And hey, maybe as Jim was saying, he got another line there. So see how fast Jim can piss. But as you know, trade deadline rumors, there are really two names, but we'll throw in a third because he's popped up in rumors lately, and he plays the center position. But first, obviously, the trade deadline rumors. Ristolainen was the top guy I was hoping we can get the most for. I felt his value had never been higher. Obviously, we were pretty much all in agreement that we do not want to retain any salary, and we want a first-round pick. Pretty simple. Like, I think if somebody offered us that, they would probably do it. And leading up until Four Nations, at the very least, there had been some interest in Risto, but teams such as Dallas, Toronto, Detroit, Edmonton, Florida, Tampa Bay, Winnipeg, and even Vancouver before things fell off there, because they just need defensive help. But recently, Kevin Kurtz came out and said apparently Risto is not drawing the interest we thought he would, which is mind-boggling to me. But he followed that up with something along the lines of, because of his previous years, I am assuming his first year in Philly, his years in Buffalo, teams are a little gun shy to pay that kind of price for a guy like Risto with his term and whatnot. I thought that was ridiculous. I hope that's just a negotiating tactic. But either way, it sounds like things have currently cooled off on Rasmus Ristolainen. Jim, just to catch you up real quick, I told the Coots little story with the face-off thing.
I was going to say, that was a quick one.
Yeah, and then I got right into Ristolainen. Essentially, we knew there was a lot of interest leading up to Four Nations. And then Kevin Kurz pretty much came out and said there really hasn't been as much interest that we thought, which is mind-boggling to me. And one of the reasons he alluded to, I guess I'll say, is that his previous play, not this year and last year, his play before that, maybe his year one in Philly and his play in Buffalo, that's holding teams back from acquiring, I guess, because he has term. That's really, why they're holding off on really showing some strong interest. I don't think there's a lot of defensemen out there. But I think that's a negotiating tactic for now. Ultimately, we'll see. I can see teams making that argument, because it's like, well, we don't have Brad Shaw here. Maybe things don't exactly work out, and then we're stuck with him for 2 more years. So maybe there's something to that. Before we move on, it's willing to get your thoughts on Risto.
I got a hot take for you.
Oh God, wait, hold on. He finishes out his deal in Philly and resigns.
I think he's the best defenseman on the Philadelphia Flyers right now.
Oh, so yes, what I said, right? He's a part of the future when he's 35.
I wouldn't be upset if that was the case, because I think that's how good he is right now.
He is good. I do. That's why we can get something for him, though, Jim.
Well,
if he were 3 years younger, I could get on board.
Well, he's not old.
He's not now. He's not. But by the time we're ready to win, he's got to be a little old.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm not even sure he'll be here for when I think.
Well, then trade him. What's the point?
Well, because you need him now.
Stability until we get there.
So he's 30 years old now. So, all right, he's not exactly a spring chicken. He'll be 32. Let me see when his birthday is real quick here. October 27.
Now you're grasping at straws.
He'll be 31. No, I'm just trying to figure out how old he is. So he's going to be 32 by the end of his contract.
31 to start next season.
Yeah,
we're not ready to win in 4 years, maybe 3.
So if I'm still on the same, if you can't get what you absolutely want for him, this is a guy that'll help younger players develop on your team. And so Torts said it even today during his press conference, because they were the media guys were asking him questions. It seemed like they were all on the same page too, which I thought was interesting. They were kind of grilling him about the trade deadline, and they asked him, what do you think about Risto being traded? And he said, who said Risto is getting traded? And I'm like, oh, this is interesting, because
Jim, do not underestimate Taron Hatcher's powers.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right?
But he's kind of like the organization recognizes this as well. Like
they said it. That's why I knew you were going to bring this up. They essentially said how important it'd be a hole to fill, and he's important. I know what you're referring to, but you have young defensemen we need to get in. You got Andre should be up here. Sealer's locked up.
Yeah.
Unless they pull off a hell of a move for York, because Sanheim's not going anywhere. Drysdale's not going anywhere. Somebody's got to go. Somebody's got Zamula they kind of like, and even then, that's not a big move. Like, what do they do?
Yeah, but how close are these other guys to coming up? Honestly,
I think Hunter McDonald is like next year.
You do
mid-season. They're going to want to bring him. Well, he's going to be. They got to age out of the AHL at some point. I know that the Bonk's a guy they want to see like push for the NHL.
I still see Bonk like at least 2 seasons away. Like not next year, maybe the year after.
Maybe you're right, but that was
which works with the Risto thing
for this year. You're saying they want to keep him, longer. If they keep him 1 year,
if they don't get exactly what they want for Risto, they should be strongly considering keeping him for, until they get what they want.
I agree. You made it sound like he's not even on the table. I'm like, no, I don't believe that.
Listening to Torts,
no, Torts his own contract's running out, and he thinks he's staying longer than he is.
So that's another thing, because I thought it was interesting listening to Torts. It didn't sound like he was, when he signed the contract with the Flyers, he said this was it, right? But I don't know that he said that this was his last contract, meaning like
I think we all took it he moved into the front office. But
we'll see. We kind of did.
Danny's got to play hard. Look, when they're ready to win, I find it hard to believe that Torts is going to be that guy. You might see me turn. We'll see.
But how close are they to winning?
That's a good point. But like, here's my thing. Unless somebody becomes available that they can't miss, why are they moving on? Are they just making a change to make a change? Forget about all this Torts hater bullshit. That's not serious. But if you're ready to move on from Torts, right? Because it's the next stage. Are you doing it just for the sake of doing it? Or is there a couple of names that you want to become available or to have a chance at, and then you pull the trigger? Much like Keith Jones said with acquiring a center, it's not acquiring the best guy. It's about acquiring the right guy. Same goes for head coach. Are we just getting rid of Torts for the sake of getting rid of Torts and advancing our rebuild to the next level and then sign whoever's available? Or do we actually have our eyes on some guys that we believe can do what we have already set up here and can't disrupt that, and are also good at what they do?
Yeah, look, I mean, you're talking about Torts, right?
I'm saying why move on from Torts unless you have somebody in mind, not just move on for the sake of moving on.
Sure. I would agree with that.
So I could see them keeping him. I mean, it ain't going to go over well. That's for sure. I mean, that is going to be something.
Yeah, it'll be that's something to watch.
But Torts is probably talking the way he is. I would assume everybody involved understands. But if I'm Danny, I may have a different timeline than Torts does. But that also doesn't mean that when this contract's over, that's the timeline. We'll see.
Yeah, it's
Mike Sullivan still needs to get fired.
We'll see. Smitty Fishtown. So he had commented, I think it was on your Torts video, that he wanted to catch the live show, and here we are. And
is that who that was? Nice.
Here's Smitty. Thanks for remembering, Smitty. Good to see you in here. And Jim with the hot takes.
He says, you just brought up Smitty. I'm sorry, but he says what I was saying, man. You got to have a plan. Let's move on for the sake of moving on. All right, sorry.
So I got a retort, no pun intended to that. Put that back up. Smitty chimes in. We've had enough of Torts, and so have the players. But if he's gone, you got to have a plan. And look, I don't know who we is, but the players that have had enough of Torts are not here anymore. They're in Calgary. So Torts ain't going anywhere, Smitty. I got news for you.
Well, that's the end of that. The have a plan thing is what I'm saying. But yeah.
Oh no, yeah. I'm saying Torts.
You're right. You're right.
They're moving guys out and they're keeping Torts is what is actively happening right now. So I'm just pointing that out. That's all.
Hey, wasn't that why he was brought in?
Yep. Boost Wholesale says Rocky Thompson's the next head coach.
Yeah, the Phantoms.
Oakham says Brad Shaw. I don't know if Brad Shaw's a head coach, to tell you the
Yeah,
truth.
I
I
don't
just
either.
don't know.
It's a different mentality.
Zach Leahy. This is the first time I've seen Zach in here. Give Torts a 5-year deal if he plays Michkov for 20 minutes.
Otherwise, the whole contract is void.
This was funny because I think our own Josh Bright had mentioned that Michkov had the most minutes among forwards last night. And, so this is what I mean. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. On the one side, you got the fan base crying that he's not getting enough minutes, yada, yada. And then on the other side, you have a faction of the fan base. Oh, he's got to pace out his minutes. He's going to be dead by the time the regular season comes. And whose fault's that going to be? It's the coach. And it's like, Christ, you can't win with these guys.
So, Jim, that's a very simple answer to what you just said. When Michkov's playing good, he gets the minutes. When he's not,
crazy,
takes him away.
Yeah.
I think that's called coaching. I don't know. I'm a little new to this, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. Unbelievable, man.
Boost agrees with you. Crazy how he plays minutes when he's playing good. And it's not like he's getting benched for playing bad. Imagine the coach knows his players and knows, hey, he's not himself. Let's not give him 20 minutes a night. Okay.
Strange concept.
So I guess we touched on Risto there. You have some teams mentioned here. Did you go over that already?
Yeah. I kind of ran down them. It's kind of irrelevant now because it sounds like the interest is dried up or it's a negotiating tactic. Mm-hmm. But I did mention them. So we'll see. The only other thing I'll add is what other defensemen are really available? Savard. Somebody else got brought up. Excuse me, I couldn't remember who it was, but I'm scratching my head here. Who, if you need to add a defenseman, and you look at what playoff Risto could bring you, just physically, among how he's played this year and last year. Who else? I got nothing.
Yeah, and I did see those reports that I think it was an opinion that maybe teams are backing off based off of his play in the past, and I just don't believe that. I don't believe that though, man.
Yeah. I mean,
because that's not how shit goes.
It doesn't make sense to me. I'll say that much, whether it's true or not. That's why I think if it was said, it's a negotiating ploy, essentially. Yeah. To bring the price down or to get us to retain some money or something like that.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we should just move on to Laughton at this point.
Yeah.
So it seems that where Risto's market is shrinking, Laughton's is only growing. As I have, there's up to 6 or 7 teams now. Mm-hmm. I have the Caps, the Jets, the Senators, the Leafs, Tampa, LA, and even the Devils were recently named. And who knows, maybe there'll be more tomorrow, but it sounds like for the first time that this could be where he does finally get moved.
It really does. When you listen to again, Torts talk today, they asked him, do you feel the locker room is now ready to move on from, a beloved player in the room? And obviously they're talking about Laughton. And, I had asked this question myself a couple of weeks ago, and so Torts almost made a point. He almost made the point I was making about him. So I'll get to that in a second. But the question was, do you feel the locker room is in a place today, a better place today than it was 2 years ago, to be able to make a move and potentially move on from a player like Scott Laughton? And in short, his answer was yes. He believes the foundation has been built. And so a few weeks ago, when we were kind of speculating, what actually is going to happen with Tortorella? Is he going to, finish out his 4th season? Do they move on from him in the offseason? And I had said, what more is there for Tortorella to do? His job has been done. He changed the culture of the Philadelphia Flyers. What more can he do? If you're not going to add to the roster, if you're not going to go out and find centers for him and shore up this defense and, whatever else you need to do to the roster, what more can he do for you? Right? The culture has been changed. The locker room is in a good place. What more can he possibly do? And that's a genuine, honest question, because I like Torts. I'm a Torts guy. But what more can they gain from having John Tortorella as the coach if the culture and the locker room is now in a place where they can start moving on from leadership guys and beloved players like Scott Laughton. Does that make sense, Jack?
I'll agree halfway, because I've heard that's the message and whatnot. The only thing I think it's a great point to move on from guys like Laughton from the leadership group, like you're alluding to and saying. But like for Torts, yeah, part of that, because it does seem like the locker room is in a good place, and team players are only going to want to come in there and play the Flyers way and win and stand up for each other. But Torts is still in a teaching aspect. I know he's a dick, I get it, but I do. If he only until the right guy was available. If he was fired tomorrow, they brought somebody in that we liked, I wouldn't care. But until that person becomes available, I can still live with Tortorella being the team's coach, because he is a good teacher and he will beat the bad habits out of players. I will keep an eye on certain players, because I want them turning some of our stars into defensive stalwarts. I still want them to flourish offensively. Let's just say I hope that coach, next level coach, becomes available sooner rather than later. But I can live with Torts longer than I can with some of the players on this team while they still have value. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I think Laughton is one of those guys where
yeah, exactly.
he can be replaced in the lineup today by somebody.
He got young guys. You got to make room at some point.
So a lot of guys in the chat seem to think that Laughton's going, and chimes in. He thinks he's going to a local team. Oakham says Laughton will be a cap. I think I saw somebody else say he's going to New Jersey.
I still do it, as much as I know they're division rivals, but they're giving you a first round pick, especially in 2026, all day.
Yeah. So I kind of get that sense too, that this could be it. I mean, just the way that they're talking, it sounds like a Laughton trade has come. We thought he was gone 2 weeks ago, before the first Penguins game, the first of the two. So yeah, Ant mentions Torts said don't fall in love with guys and things like that, and we could speculate on where you think he's going to go. There was a comment here from Smitty Fishtown I wanted to touch on. Smitty says, culture's back now. Talent must come back. Flyers have plenty of assets. So offer sheets, yes. Trades now to move salary, trade players for picks, free agents. Who do you guys want in a trade or sign free agency? So I have opinions on that. I don't know if the Flyers, I don't even know if they should be in the free agent market for players. Torts mentioned today that sometimes free agency can screw your team up, can screw things up. And, the first thing that came to mind for me, Kevin Hayes.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Right? So
it happens to all teams.
Missing on Nolan Patrick was the root of that, but then going out and trying to do the quick fix, and signing a Kevin Hayes and overpaying for whatever the hell he was.
It's all about the right guy, not the best available guy.
We'll set you. Yeah, exactly. And we'll set you back. And, he's still on the payroll, I think. Right. So or at least part
apparently Jonesy and Briere were asked about the offer sheets. I don't remember where.
Okay.
And when they were, it was like a grin situation where it's like, yeah, we'll explore all options. And there's a lot of steam picking up that the offer sheets could actually do something this year, where in the past teams were, I don't want to upset him because he may offer sheet me 2 years from now. It seems like that might be going away. A lot of people like to point to the St. Louis Blues when they got Broberg and somebody else from Edmonton. Holloway, thank you. I will say that GM, I believe it was Doug Armstrong, he was their next GM is like waiting in the wings. And he literally said, like, I did that. So if there's any animosity held, it's held against me and I'll just step down, because, and that's because of the offer sheets. He actually said that. And, but it's for whatever reason, it still sounds like this off season, they could come back and maybe teams aren't as afraid to use them. And if there's any team that should be interested, because it's going to be damn tough to find a number one center, it should be the Flyers. Even if you take some shit from teams for some years, it's definitely something they should be interested in. And I'll be honest, free agency's out. I don't see them, not this year. Doesn't make sense. But an offer sheet or trade, obviously, but an offer sheet, you don't need two to tango. Well, you need the player. You need the player to tango. But usually when they get the money they want, they'll sign. And we have assets. We can give up first-round picks if we need to. Mind you, you can only give up your own first-round pick in a offer sheet scenario. But when you have other first-round picks, it makes getting rid of those picks feel a little bit easier. So I really do hope that they explore that market. Rossi was mentioned. I'm not 100% sure who else is available, but I really do. I hope we're not the only team that does it. I hope it's a flurry of craziness in the offseason. And fingers crossed, Flyers are involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly one avenue they could explore. Another one could be maybe the old traditional way. Maybe the guy like Quinton Byfield's name came up today. And
there he is.
I think it was Nick Kiprios that put it out. I'm not going to throw water on the fire right off the bat because I do want to have this conversation. I really do like Quinton Byfield, but had a couple guys reach out and say, hey, I think Nick was just kind of talking out of his ass, trying to stir stuff up, which, it's that time of year, right? We're all looking for clicks and plays and what have you. But Quinton Byfield, if he actually was or is being shopped or, quietly put out there, I have no idea what Los Angeles would want back, but that is a player that the Flyers should be all over on. And Los Angeles has proved in the past they make some pretty aggressive trades. Like when stuff gets out about Los Angeles, like it's not BS. So at least from past things, they've made some pretty big trade deadline deals. And, Kopitar, who knows how much time he's got left, I think they want to win one more for him.
Hey, so, Jim, we traded some young centers to LA. It's about time they traded one back.
Yeah. Quinton Byfield, somebody on Twitter today mentioned that maybe he's their sort of Morgan Frost, and in the sense that, he hasn't produced the way that they've hoped. I know he's only 22, 23 years old, but he's been on the team since he was 18 years old. So in that sense, but he's way, way, way better than Morgan Frost. So this is a 6'5" center, 225, long rangy guy. They have him playing, I think, on the wing out in Los Angeles. 33 points, 55 games. He's been more hot recently.
4 assists in this last game.
4 assists, yeah. Former second overall pick in 2020. I believe that's the same draft as Lafreniere. So 121 points in 234 games.
However, only 11 goals, like you were just saying. I'm looking at his stats right now. I know you just brought him up. His career high was last year in 80 games, 20 goals, 35 assists, 55 points. 55 games played this year, 11 goals. I know he's playing not only center. He is a plus player, 22 assists. It depends on who you talk to. If you talk to people around here, it's not nearly as much. You talk to people in the West Coast, they're giving up. We don't have the assets to make the deal, and a lot of that is his youth. But the Flyers should absolutely be interested. Yep. 2, we have the assets. I don't think that it's going to the only thing you can trade is Michkov and nothing else. I think that's bullshit. If he's even being rumored, his price automatically comes down a little bit. Now there will be competition. Don't get me wrong, but there's got to be a combination of draft picks and young players they can make if they wanted to, if they believed in them to make this deal happen. Whether it does, I don't know. If it doesn't, will people start to hate on Danny again? If Byfield's moved elsewhere, we'll see.
So Ant wants me to say that the Flyers are going to move Cam York for him.
I was going to wait for you to bring that up too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could you see? How about this? Could you see a scenario where the Flyers do make a trade for Byfield and York is in the deal?
I mean, if I'm the GM of the Flyers, it makes a lot of sense for why I would do it. I don't know what Los Angeles needs.
Well, considering they have Brant Clark on the rumored trade list as well, I don't know if they're necessarily looking for. Yeah, there was talk earlier. He got healthy scratched when Doughty came back, and it's like, dude, he's like a power play QB1. Like, what are you benching him for? So I don't really watch LA games. So I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm talking about. But that was what I had heard. And I don't know. You could always use a good defense. York is a good defenseman and defensive defenseman too. A reliable guy. I think they could use something like that. But it's definitely, some people think it's York and a pick. I think it would be York and more. But what is the more? And do the Flyers do something like that?
So I'll say this after looking over the roster a little bit. I don't know if they need defense this year. They have Drew Doughty, who obviously just came back from injury. They have Gavrikov, who's signed to the end of this year. So that's interesting. Mikey Anderson.
Yeah, I don't know if they've been happy with that return. I think that he's been okay.
Yeah, Mikey. Yeah, so maybe they move him and they need a spot. Who knows? But Mikey Anderson, Joel Edmondson, both under contract for 4 years there. And then Jordan Spence, young 24-year-old defenseman who they like. Kyle Burrows, who I assume is a depth guy. And then you mentioned Brant Clark. So I don't know. Maybe they need a D. Not sure. I don't know what they would want for Quinton Byfield, who's making $6.25 million for the next 3 seasons after this one. So
I think it would be something for this year. I'd say that much. I think they're tired of getting bounced in the first round. Edmonton's too good because of the playoff structure. That's who they're going to run into the most. And I think they're looking, I'm not saying they're looking for a 33-year-old, but I do think whatever they're looking for, it's got to be able to contribute this year and potentially the future as well.
Yeah.
I think York fits that bill. I think not just him, but I think he's definitely young enough. But he can contribute to that team now. I think you can easily slot him into your second D pair based on the names you had given.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at potential needs here, and they are the second best defensive team in terms of goals allowed in the NHL. Yeah. And then goals for, they are near the bottom here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're 9th from the bottom in goals for with 161. So I'm going to assume probably looking for a score or two there. I'm not sure. So maybe they're not a match. I don't know, but
we're picks and they can, move it elsewhere. Now I'm getting a little wild because now I'm talking three team deal. So I don't know. I do think the pieces are there, but it might be easier for them to look to another team and just acquire what they need directly. So who knows?
Boost says they ain't selling 22-year-old unicorn center. Yeah, and it's kind of what I've been told.
I mean, his points, though, if they want to get past Edmonton in the first round, they're going to have to do better. They're going to have to do something. I think that's where this comes from. They have to do something.
What does this mean? Dallas was in compete now mode
NHL
too.
communism?
Just need a bit of NHL communism to force a trade to a real team. Who forced their way out of Dallas? I don't remember.
I got nothing.
Zach, tell us who you're talking about.
Brings me to my next point. Don't smoke crack.
Speaking of communism, I don't know. I don't know who that is. Okay.
Oh, he's talking the Mavericks. Oh, Jesus. That was whoop. He's talking about Luka.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. Missed that.
NBA is fixed. Watch a real sport.
Yeah. Okay. So, there you go. Yeah, Luka Doncic. All right. We touched on Law and we touched on Risto. Potentially anybody else that moves off the team before the trade deadline, Jack, like a wild card type thing.
I mean, maybe Paling or Hathaway. I seriously doubt it, though. Maybe I don't even see Zamula going. Then again, who had Frost and Farabee getting moved? I guess there's a chance the Brink gets moved. I seriously doubt it. I guess if I had to pick one, gun to my head, maybe Hathaway gets moved. Okay. Maybe Paling. I don't know. I go back and forth between the two. Yeah. Paling. Maybe Paling because he can play center.
I like Oakham here. Just speaking of Maverick, how about Maverick Bork?
I'm all about it.
Good little player. Like this name. Yeah, okay. So we're like we mentioned, we're less than 10 days to the trade deadline. A week from Friday.
Tell you this, Jim. Yeah, what we've discussed and what we've heard. Would you be honest now? I'm not saying it's the wrong move. I'm not saying it's a bad move, but would you be even a little bit disappointed if Danny Briere did nothing?
No.
You wouldn't be disappointed at all. Just like, I like the deadline. Like, come on.
Like, you mean like, man, I really.
You're like, no, what he says is right.
I would have no problem with it because there's the summer. I think the summer's a better time for them to the players that are coming up for them in trades. I think make more sense to move in the off season since they have extra years on their contracts.
Is that the only reason why though? Because they have term.
Yeah.
Isn't there the fear of running it back in that scenario?
No,
not at all.
No, I mean, I like Scott Law and I like Ristolainen.
But you're still running it back.
Yeah, that's fine.
You got to make some roster moves.
So my question would be, if there was a player knocking down the door to take their spot, then I'd be like, we have to move Laughton just to get him off the team. But who's knocking down that door?
Maybe Jet Luchenko.
Nah.
No,
not going to be. He's not going to be. I mean, so here's my thing with Jet.
I want them to get everybody to get NHL experience too. I don't want them to have to be knocking. Not every prospect does that. Like you have to. I want to get experience. I want to get him some experience and get some assets back in.
Ole Lixell's getting experience. Have you seen enough of Ole Lixell?
Is he like 26, some shit?
But you want to see more or no?
Not really. Some of the younger guys.
That's who's coming up for.
I want to see Jet. And go ahead.
Or you got Rodrigo Abels. You want to see?
Hey, who are they? What if they trade? What if they trade for somebody? I want to see that guy next year. What if they make a move?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I won't be disappointed. You know, like it's you got the off season. Cap's going up.
Defense,
Teams will have a little bit more cap flexibility when guys fall off the roster. Yada yada. But I don't see it as running it back kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I guess we'll have Kuzmenko and Peltier, so it's not completely running it back.
So interesting, and thanks for bringing them up. I saw a couple guys mention them as well. I totally forgot. If you haven't already, go check out my Jacob Peltier. I analyzed his first game. I would like to do more of that. If you guys liked it, let me know. But Peltier, nice little player. He's going to be an RFA after this year. A guy that I wasn't sure if I was going to like or not, but just based off his first 2 games, this is a guy the Flyers maybe could bring back and, let's see what they have. Maybe they give him a 1-year prove-it deal or something like that. Kuzmenko, though, Jack, seems like a fun guy, maybe a fun player.
So I'm real quick. I'm really sorry, but I have to interject. Can I redo my answer to the wild card trade at the deadline?
Yeah.
Kuzmenko.
Okay.
Okay. Proceed.
Yeah, I totally forgot about these guys, but Kuzmenko, I've heard more negative than positive on Kuzmenko. Oh yeah. Even before I saw him play, like watching him play, like he's just kind of like another guy so far, which is fine. Maybe he's an energy guy type thing. But off ice, I've heard not great things about Kuzmenko, and I was sitting next to a pretty prominent media member. I'll just say that during the Calgary game, during the Edmonton game. So he's got a pretty good feel for some of these Canadian guys. And Kuzmenko played for Calgary, so I think he covers them as well.
Played Vancouver too.
Vancouver, and he had mentioned that the reason Tocchet didn't like him was because Kuzmenko was. This is his words. Kuzmenko was fat in Vancouver. He just said he just wasn't in shape. And so all this, not forechecking and stuff, it wasn't that he didn't want to do it. I mean, it might have been he didn't want to do it because he was out of shape, but he just couldn't do it. So then he gets traded.
Can he be our Phil Kessel?
Yeah, right. So then, I'm hearing now, like, and I don't know if I can't repeat a lot of this on the show, but there are concerns with him off the ice. I'll say that. And so maybe this isn't even true. I don't know. This is just what I've heard. So it's rumors what it is. I don't know. I didn't know that I wanted him here in the first place. I don't know that I want them to resign him kind of thing, yada, yada. But I would agree if he can score enough goals in a short amount of time and be flipped, he's a flippable guy.
So you want him to be flipped. You're not interested in re-signing or anything. Even if it's short term or see what you have.
So if we're like, let's just say
he's younger than Risto. Just saying.
If we're moving Risto, let's say to move his money off the books, why wouldn't you want Kuzmenko's off the books?
Yeah, and he plays wing, so it's like The one thing you have enough of, So
Yeah.
I mean, I know people like the Michkov factor with the Russian and the translating to English and all that stuff, but I don't see it work. I feel like the odds of it working are like 2%. Like it's like if we can get something at the deadline, just take it. Just take it. Enjoy the asset.
Yeah. So yeah. But Peltier, though, I think so far is a nice little player. Plays physical for his size. He's listed 5'9", looks a little smaller out on the ice to me, but holds his own so far anyways. Seems to make a lot of right decisions, a lot of smart decisions. And I was talking to our buddy Russ Cohen the other night about Peltier, and he had mentioned, go watch some of Peltier in the past, or look up his offensive zone and defensive zone starts. He has 0 defensive zone starts off the face-off this season, and all of a sudden he's playing on the Flyers' fourth line, who they use in defensive situations. So I thought that was interesting because he's being put in situations now where he's not really used to, and maybe not being put. I don't want to say not being put in a position to succeed, because all players should know how to be responsible defensively. But so far he's looked, through 2 games, he's looked fine. He's fine defensively, putting himself in good positions. And I'm not going to go through a big Peltier section, but go back and watch the video, and then maybe I'll put another one out. But a lot of what he did in that first game, he did in the second one, and he was rewarded with his first point as a Flyer. So Peltier could be a player to watch. I'm more interested in Peltier than I am Kuzmenko. How's that?
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, It's recency bias, and then with the trade deadline coming up, it's curious. But yeah, for sure. I remember Peltier's name being mentioned in the trade, and I was kind of like, oh, what's that guy been up to? Because he wasn't a former first-round pick. So look, he may not be a top 6 guy, but if he's a reliable bottom 6 guy who can pop into your top 6 and does everything right, and things that Torts likes, and he can, if he's not something for you, he's definitely a tradable asset. So all about it. And he's young, super young.
Yep, 23. So he's kind of like, Calgary's Frost. He was
This keeps coming up.
Project guy.
Oh God, yeah.
So yeah,
those centers getting swapped. No, he's not even a center, so forget it.
What else we got? We got 3 minutes left here. United States lost in the Four Nations.
Oh Jesus Christ,
that was rough. The Kachucks are on tour. That's good for them, growing the game. Yada yada.
NBA is a joke. NHL's going to pass them.
Yeah. You have Obi's comments on Michkov, Jack. You want to go through that real quick? And
a little old, but did you hear what he said about Michkov?
I did.
So I believe it's something to the effect of, I like him. He's good. He's talented. I wish he would stop showing off show off less. Something like that. And I don't know if that's because they just played each other and Michkov had 2 goals. And I believe the second goal, it kind of tapped the Washington defenseman that was kind of down. And I don't know. That seemed a little silly. For me, Ovechkin to say that, Mr. Hot Stick, that just seemed downright silly to me. I don't know why he had to comment at all. Just focus on your goal scoring race, especially with, the things you've done. But Michkov took notice, so I'll take that for what it is, and I'll kind of just take the comments with a grain of salt. So really don't know what else to say on that. Jim left me, so with that, we're going to wrap up the show. We got nothing left. I got to burn a minute. Here. So let's see. What are the comments talking about? What do we got here? I mean, I don't know if maybe. I like it. Whatever it is, I like it. I like that he's kind of like that. He's not over the top about it. He's not Crosby-X where he's diving and starting all sorts of shit and playing victim. Because he'll throw it, he doesn't back down from anybody. But at the same time, he does have that cockiness. He does have that. It didn't even look all that bad to me. He kind of skated by the guy. For all I know, he said something positive. Probably not, but it didn't look like it was an obvious embarrassing of another player. So, Ovechkin just seems silly making the comments for what he had done. And there you go. And My favorite player, right? Only the Kolosoft. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on with this guy. He's clearly the number 3. He wasn't playing well with the Phantoms. I don't even know what they do with him. They're saying there's potentially an agreement in place where he can go back to Belarus. This is one of those things, like, if say it does end that way, raise your hand if you're surprised, because I'm not. Like, when some other guy comes in and starts this, I'm not playing for them, or it starts with the threats and the ultimatums. Like, it's not going to end well unless you're an amazing goalie. Is there skill there? Sure. We've all seen that. Doesn't mean you're NHL ready or even NHL caliber. It just means you've looked good in the leagues you're in. All that is an audition for the next league. Doesn't mean you're set in the league. You have to prove you can stay there. But some people think that doesn't apply to them. And now we have this goofy situation with Kolosov. I'm sorry, but players like that are losers. I don't see this ending well. Jim, Kolosov.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, right? Like, hasn't played in a month. You have guys like Kevin Kurz reporting that, he's the 3rd goalie right now, and he's not playing in Lehigh. And so, the 3rd goalie typically stays on the ice, to stay in the net for the guys still on the ice. And Kolosov comes off with the 2 other guys. Factor that in. This guy hasn't played in a game since January. It's like, what do you want to be here, dude? Like, what do you want to do, dog? Like, if you want to go back to Russia, just say the word. You know what I mean?
This is what happens when players try to, young players who've never been successful or played in this league try to dictate their future from the get-go. This is usually how it ends. Freaking stupid.
Yeah. What is this in reference to?
I'd have to see what Christopher McCarthy said. I can't. How do you scroll again? I forget.
You got to scroll down to go up. Here is it. This, could you see him down in AC on the days off, walking out of the sports book? Hey, honey.
Oh, jeez.
Chris, glad to have you back, Chris. Smitty signing out. Have a good night, everyone. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks, Smitty. Everybody, make sure you hit that like button. Give us a subscribe if you haven't already. I think we've seen a few new names in the chat. We appreciate you guys. Give us a subscribe. Help us on our way to 1,000 subscribers. We've sort of hit a rough patch here. We're trying to get over the 800 subscriber hump. So if you haven't already, please give us a subscribe. All right. Did we cover all of our topics for tonight, Jack?
I think we did. I didn't get your thoughts on the Ovi comments. I explained it if you just want to go.
Nah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Life is just funny, and age and growing up is kind of funny because we were all like that, when we were younger. We just didn't give a shit, living in the moment kind of thing, and didn't care. And it kind of seems like what Michkov's doing now. He's having fun. And it was kind of ironic that Ovechkin, of all people, said that. I mean, we all remember, the hockey stick being on fire and all that kind of shit. And it was just funny hearing it from Ovi and a fellow Russian at that. I did not expect that kind of criticism from Ovechkin on Michkov. I thought it was kind of ironic.
It fell in line with everything I said.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're going to wrap this one up. Jack, what do you think?
If wrapping this up gets us closer to the trade deadline, then so be it.
Yeah, that's right. We'll have one more show before the trade deadline. We'll do a trade deadline show next Friday. We're working on guests to bring you guys the best content in the Flyers podcast world. I think who did we have on last year? Jay Rosehill,
former Flyer Jay Rosehill.
Yeah, he hung around for
a lot of the HW Circle guys.
That's right. Yeah. Man, that was a year ago, huh? That seems like a lot longer ago.
Yeah, it was something else, and we had some trades actually go down. We actually had some stuff happen. Eric Johnson was acquired.
That's right.
And obviously Sean Walker was moved. So it was a good trade deadline. Hoping for a better one this year. We'll see.
There you go. I wonder if Eric Johnson's moved. How's that for your trade deadline?
I forgot about him as well, but no, Kuzmenko's my answer to that question.
I like that one. That's more fun, that one.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everyone. That's going to do it for our episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe and help us continue our quest for 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Leave a comment and make sure to like the episode. Go ahead and listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're a podcast listener, make sure you set alerts so you're first in line when we drop a new show. And for all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, head over to hwhockey.net. The Flyers will play next tomorrow night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Once again, this weekend, I believe in Winnipeg. So next time you'll see a post game will be next Tuesday, where the Flyers have a few games in a row. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. The Flyers are home next week. So you'll get your fill of HW Hockey post games. Everybody signing off in the comments. We're going to do the same as well. For Jack, I'm Jim. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.